The giant screens in the Galactic Concord meeting hall flashed with red warning signals. The 17 species that made up the peaceful coalition had never seen such alerts before. For 10,000 years they had worked together, spreading harmony across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. "What is the meaning of this?" asked High Leader Vextol, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly in concern. The Vextol's gray skin shimmered under the bright lights as he stood at the center of the circular room. Chief Scientist Mirok rushed to the main platform, her tentacles carrying various data pads. "High Leaders, our sensors have detected a new energy signature from a small solar system we previously ignored. It appears a developing species has achieved faster-than-light travel." Murmurs spread through the room. A new species gaining space travel was always important, but normally not cause for alarm. "Why the emergency signals?" asked Ambassador Tilzor of the Valaxian High Council, leaning forward in his seat. Mirok connected her data pad to the main screen. "They call themselves humans. They've developed FTL technology using principles we've never considered possible with their level of advancement. Look at these readings." The leaders studied the information with growing concern. The species, called humans, had created something new, something different. "How is this possible?" asked another leader. "Their technology is primitive in most ways." "Unknown," replied Mirok. "But there's more. Their history." The screens filled with images that made several leaders gasp. Wars, conflicts, competing nations, constant disagreement. Yet somehow, this species had not destroyed itself. Instead, they had advanced rapidly despite their chaotic nature. High Leader Vextol stood tall. "We must bring them into the Concord immediately. Every new species signs the integration treaty. It is the way of peace." "I will go personally," said Ambassador Tilzor. The Valaxian was known as the Concord's best diplomat. His species looked almost human-like, except for their purple skin and slightly larger eyes. "I will present the treaty and welcome them to galactic society." Captain Elena Reyes of the Earth Interstellar Vessel Pathfinder stared out the main viewport at the approaching alien ship. It was beautiful, sleek, silver, and at least 3 times larger than her own vessel. "This is it," she said to her crew. "Humanity's first contact with alien life." Her second-in-command, Commander Jackson Lee, stood at her side. "The United Earth Council is receiving our transmission. The whole planet is watching." "No pressure," Elena said with a small smile. "Just don't start an interstellar war." The alien ship sent a communication request. Elena nodded to Communications Officer Patel, who opened the channel. A purple-skinned humanoid appeared on screen. "Greetings, representatives of Earth. I am Ambassador Tilzor of the Galactic Concord, a peaceful union of 17 species. We welcome you to the galactic community." Elena stepped forward. "I am Captain Elena Reyes of the Earth Interstellar Vessel Pathfinder. On behalf of humanity, we are honored to meet you." The meeting went smoothly at first. Ambassador Tilzor requested permission to come aboard with a small delegation, which Elena granted. The humans prepared their meeting room with care, setting up refreshments and making sure everything looked perfect. When the alien visitors arrived, the human crew tried not to stare. Besides Ambassador Tilzor, there were 2 other species present. One, resembling an upright lizard, and another that looked somewhat like a tall insect. After formal introductions and a tour of the ship, they settled in the meeting room. "Captain Reyes," said Ambassador Tilzor, "every species that joins the galactic community signs the integration treaty." He placed a small device on the table, which projected a holographic document. "This establishes the rules by which all species interact and guarantees peace throughout the galaxy." Elena studied the document carefully. "How many pages is this?" "The equivalent of about 5,000 of your Earth pages," replied the ambassador proudly. "It covers everything: trade, territory rights, technology sharing, cultural protection. Every species has signed it upon first contact." Elena smiled politely. "And you expect us to sign it today? Right now?" "Of course," said Tilzor. "It is the way things are done." Elena laughed, not mockingly but with genuine amusement. The alien delegation looked confused. "Ambassador Tilzor, I appreciate your offer," she said. "But humans don't sign agreements without reading and understanding them first. We'll need our experts to review this document." The ambassador's purple face seemed to darken. "But every species signs immediately. It is the tradition." "Well, humans have a tradition too," Elena replied. "We read the fine print. Always." "Commander," Lee leaned forward. "Perhaps you could explain the main points while we arrange for our legal experts to study the full document." The lizard-like alien whispered something to Ambassador Tilzor, who seemed increasingly uncomfortable. "Very well," said the ambassador finally. "I will summarize the key aspects while you review the document." For the next hour, Ambassador Tilzor explained the treaty. Each time he mentioned a rule or restriction, Captain Reyes or a member of her crew asked detailed questions that the ambassador struggled to answer. "So this section means we would need permission to colonize any new worlds?" asked Elena. "Well, yes, but... And this part says we must share all our technology with the Concord? For the good of all species, of course. And what about this clause regarding military development?" By the end of the meeting, Ambassador Tilzor looked exhausted. "Captain Reyes, I don't understand. These terms have been acceptable to every species for thousands of years." Elena stood up. "We appreciate your patience, Ambassador. We'll transmit the treaty to Earth for proper review. Our legal and diplomatic teams will analyze it thoroughly before we make any decisions." "How long will this take?" asked the ambassador. "Hard to say. We have many different nations and experts who will want to weigh in. Weeks at least, maybe months." The aliens exchanged worried glances. "This is unusual," said Tilzor. "But we respect your process. We will wait for your response." After the alien delegation returned to their ship, Commander Lee turned to Elena. "They seem surprised by our caution." "I noticed that too," said Elena. "Almost like they're used to species accepting their terms without question. Well, they'll learn that humans do things differently." Back on the Concord ship, Ambassador Tilzor called an emergency meeting with his team. "They refuse to sign," he said. "They want to read it first and have their experts review it." The lizard-like diplomat, Senior Advisor Creel, hissed in concern. "This has never happened before. All species understand the benefits of immediate integration." "These humans are strange," said Tilzor. Said I. "During our conversation, they asked questions I hadn't considered in centuries of diplomatic service. They found ambiguities in the treaty I never noticed." "We should report this to the High Council," suggested Creel. "This species could be problematic." Tilzor stared out at the small human ship. "Yes, they certainly could be, but also fascinating. They don't think like we do at all." 6 months had passed since first contact, and the grand meeting hall of the Galactic Concord was in chaos. Representatives from all 17 member species were talking over each other. Some were shouting, others were making high-pitched whistling sounds, and a few were releasing warning scents into the air. Grand Archon Veshna, the oldest and most respected leader of the Concord, struck her crystal staff against the floor 3 times. The sound echoed through the chamber and everyone fell silent. "This is not how the Concord conducts itself," she said, her voice calm but firm. Her skin shimmered with patterns of light that reflected her mood, currently a mix of concern and frustration. "We will discuss the human situation in an orderly manner." Ambassador Tilzor stepped forward. In the 6 months since meeting the humans, he looked tired. His purple skin had lost some of its shine. "Grand Archon, I must report that the situation with Earth continues to confuse us. Not only have they refused to sign our integration treaty, but they have sent 27 separate diplomatic missions to various worlds. They have made trade agreements with 4 non-Concord species. They are building outposts in unclaimed systems." "Are they breaking our laws?" asked a representative from the insect-like Xanthi species. "That's the problem," replied Tilzor. "Technically, they are not. They study our regulations carefully and find ways to do what they want while staying just within the rules." Grand Archon. Veshna's light patterns shifted to a deep blue of concern. How is this possible? They are one planet divided into many nations. They should not be able to act with such coordination. That's another paradox, said Tilzor. Among themselves, they argue constantly. Their nations compete. They have different governments, different beliefs. Yet when dealing with us, they present a unified approach. The screens in the chamber displayed images of human activities across the sector. Ships exploring new systems, diplomats meeting with various species, scientists studying Concord technology. They claim to want peace, continued Tilzor. Yet, their ships carry weapons our sensors cannot fully understand. They invite our diplomats to visit Earth but restrict access to certain areas. They ask thousands of questions but share limited information about themselves. The chamber erupted into worried discussion again. Grand Archon Veshna let it continue for a few minutes before calling for order. We must contain this situation, she declared. For 10,000 years, every new species has joined the conquered peacefully. We cannot allow humans to disrupt our harmony. Meanwhile, on Earth, Dr. Samira Dhawan sat in her office at the United Earth Xenolinguistics Center. The walls were covered, with diagrams showing the structure of the standardized Concord language. After 3 months of studying alien communication, she had made a breakthrough. The realization had kept her awake for 2 days straight. There was a knock at her door and Counselor Zhang from the United Earth Council entered. Dr. Dhawan, you requested an urgent meeting. Your message mentioned something about the Concord language? Samira pointed to her screens. Counselor, I've discovered something disturbing. The standardized language protocol used by the Concord isn't just a communication tool. It contains subtle structures that influence thought patterns. What do you mean? Asked Zhang, looking concerned. The language has built-in frameworks that create feelings of compliance and dependency. Every species in the Concord has been subtly influenced for generations through this language, except humans. Why not us? Samira pulled up more diagrams. Our linguistic structures are uniquely resistant. Human languages evolved separately from each other, creating diverse ways of thinking. When we learned the Concord language, we approached it differently than other species. We translated it into our terms rather than adopting its thought patterns. Counselor Zhang sat down, looking shocked. Are you saying the Concord has been controlling other species through language? I don't think it started as control, said Samira. It probably began as a way to ensure cooperation, but over thousands of years, it became a tool for maintaining order. The senior species benefit while newer members remain dependent. Zhang was quiet for a moment. This explains so much about their behavior, their confusion when we question things, their expectation that we would immediately sign their treaty. Exactly, said Samira. And now that I've identified the patterns, we can create a truly neutral language, one that allows for genuine communication without built-in influence. Zhang stood up with sudden determination. Dr. Dhawan, I need you to work with our diplomatic team. We're going to create our own treaty, one that protects human independence while promoting actual cooperation. I'll get started right away, Samira replied, her eyes bright with purpose. 3 weeks later, the Concord Assembly fell completely silent as human diplomats entered the Grand Hall. Leading them was Counselor Zhang, with Dr. Samira Dhawan at his side. Ambassador Tilzor stepped forward to greet them. Welcome to Concord Central. Have you finally come to sign the integration treaty? No, said Zhang with a polite smile. We've come to present our own proposal, the Mutual Recognition Accord. Murmurs spread through the chamber as Zhang placed a small device on the central platform. It projected a holographic document written in a completely new script. What is this? Asked Grand Archon Veshna, studying the unfamiliar text. This is a treaty written in a neutral language developed by Dr. Dhawan, explained Zhang. It contains no embedded thought structures or influence patterns. It is designed for true equality between all species. Dr. Dhawan stepped forward. We've analyzed your standard Concord language and found it contains subtle frameworks that create compliance. Perhaps this was unintentional at first, but it has shaped how member species think for generations. The chamber erupted into shocked reactions. Some leaders looked confused, others defensive. and a few, particularly from newer member species, appeared suddenly thoughtful. "This is outrageous," declared one of the senior Concord representatives. "You dare to come here and accuse us of manipulation?" "We're not making accusations," said Zhang calmly. "We're offering a solution. Our treaty establishes genuine cooperation without hidden influence. It recognizes the sovereignty of all species while creating a framework for working together." Ambassador Tilzor studied the humans with new respect and concern. "You've only known about us for 6 months. How have you understood things that have been in place for thousands of years?" Dr. Darwin smiled. "Because we question everything, Ambassador. That's the human way." Grand Archon Veshna's skin patterns had shifted to a pattern never before seen in the chamber, one of uncertainty. "We will need to study this proposal." "Of course," said Counselor Zhang. "Take all the time you need. We humans understand the importance of reading before signing." As the human delegation left the chamber, the Concord leaders stared at each other in silence. For the first time in 10,000 years, they didn't know what to do next. 1 month after humans presented their mutual recognition accord, the Concord leadership made their countermove. The normally efficient Concord Central, home to the Galactic government, suddenly became a maze of new offices, forms, and procedures. Commander Jack Okonkwo of the United Earth Diplomatic Corps stood in a long line at the newly created Office of Non-Member Species Affairs. This was his 5th line today, and it was only midday. Around him, other human diplomats waited patiently, each holding stacks of documents. "Commander," called Lieutenant Maria Santos, pushing through the crowd. "They've just informed me we need Form X7293 before they'll even look at our trading permit application, and we can only get that form from an office on the other side of the station." Jack sighed but kept his expression neutral. "Let me guess, that office closes in 10 minutes and won't open again for 3 days?" "Exactly," said Maria. "And when it does open, we'll need approval stamps from 3 different departments first." Jack nodded thoughtfully. "They're using the oldest trick in the book, drowning us in paperwork." An elegant alien glided past them, wearing the elaborate robes of the Vexthari faction, the Concord's bureaucratic specialists. The alien gave the humans a smug look before entering a private door. Jack turned to his team. "Everyone gather around. We need a new strategy." The human diplomats formed a circle in the crowded waiting area. The Concord is using what they call procedure labyrinths, bureaucratic mazes designed to slow us down and wear us out, explained Jack. "According to our intelligence, they've used this tactic for thousands of years against troublesome member species." "So what do we do?" asked one of the diplomats. Jack smiled. "We do what humans have always done when faced with bureaucracy. We find the loopholes, build shortcuts, and turn their system against them." 2 weeks later, the high proceduralist Zul of the Vexthari faction hurried into an emergency meeting with the Grand Archon Veshna. His usually neat appearance was disheveled and his breathing was rapid. "The humans," he gasped. They're... "Calm yourself, high proceduralist," said Grand Archon Veshna. "What have the humans done now?" Zul took a deep breath. "They've somehow processed 6 months' worth of regulatory procedures in just 2 weeks. They've obtained permits we never intended to grant. They've submitted applications we didn't even know existed." "How is this possible?" asked Veshna, her skin patterns showing alarm. "They've deployed teams of specialists they call lawyers, hackers, and regulatory experts. They work in shifts 24 hours a day. When one team sleeps, another takes over." Zul's voice was filled with disbelief. "And they've done something even worse." "What could be worse?" "They've gained access to the central archives. They're studying the original membership treaties of every species in the Concord." Grand Archon Veshna's light patterns flashed with shock. "That's impossible. Those archives are restricted." They found a clause in an ancient trade agreement that technically grants academic access for research purposes. They have teams of researchers working through every document. At that moment, an aide rushed in. "Grand Archon, there's a situation in the main assembly hall. Representatives from 5 junior Concord species are demanding to see their original membership treaties. In the Earth Embassy on Concord Central, Commander Jack Okonkwo's special unit, nicknamed the Red Tape Cutters, worked around the clock. The room was filled with screens displaying Concord regulations, historical documents, and cross-referenced treaty clauses. "Commander, you need to see this," called Dr. Eliza Chen, the team's quantum physics expert. "We've been analyzing the technical restrictions placed on member species." Jack walked over to her station. "What have you found?" "Many species have been held back from technological advancement through carefully crafted restrictions buried in their treaties," explained Eliza. "For example, the Muandari were about to develop their own version of our quantum drive 200 years ago, but a new safety regulation forced them to abandon the research. And it's not just technology," added Dr. Ibrahim Nasser, reviewing another document. "Cultural development, political systems, even population growth, all controlled through seemingly innocent regulatory requirements." Jack frowned. "So the Concord isn't just a peaceful alliance, it's a system of control." "Exactly," said Eliza. "And here's the interesting part about our FTL technology. The quantum properties we use are somehow connected to unique aspects of human consciousness. That's why other species develop different technologies." "What do you mean?" asked Jack. "Our brains process information differently," said Eliza. "We embrace contradictions, use metaphorical thinking, and handle ambiguity in ways other species don't. That's why we can navigate their bureaucracy. We're used to dealing with systems that don't make perfect sense," Jack laughed. "So our messy history and chaotic thinking are actually advantages?" "Precisely," said Dr. Nasser. "And we've just made contact with representatives from 7 junior Concord species who have realized their subordinate status. They want to meet privately." High proceduralist Zul watched from a hidden observation room as humans organized a meeting with representatives from the Muandari, Terrellians, and 5 other junior Concord species. His hands trembled as he activated a communication link to Grand Archon Veshina. "They've turned our own systems against us," he whispered, his voice shaking. "In just 3 weeks, they've unraveled control mechanisms we spent millennia perfecting." On the screen, he could see Commander Okonkwo spreading out documents and explaining something to the gathered aliens. The junior species representatives looked shocked, then angry, then determined. "The humans," continued Zul, "they navigate chaos as if it were their natural environment. They find patterns and complexity that we never see. They question everything, challenge every rule." "This cannot continue," said Grand Archon Veshna firmly. "We must take more direct action. Activate the enforcement protocol." "Are you certain, Grand Archon? We haven't needed military intervention in over 2,000 years. "I am certain," replied Veshna, her skin patterns now glowing with resolve. "The humans have left us no choice. Send the enforcement fleet to their newest colony. We will show them that the Concord's patience has limits." As the communication ended, Zul continued watching the humans. Commander Okonkwo was now laughing with the alien representatives. The atmosphere in the room relaxed and friendly despite the serious topics they discussed. Zul felt a strange emotion he couldn't quite identify. It took him a moment to recognize it as fear. Not of what the humans might do, but of what the Concord might become if humans continued to expose the truth of their control systems to the galaxy. The colony of New Horizon was humanity's most distant outpost, a beautiful world with 2 moons and vast blue oceans. On this particular morning, the colony's sensors detected something unusual. A fleet of 20 Concord ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. Governor Sophia Chen was immediately alerted. She rushed to the colony's command center where her team monitored the approaching vessels. "They're not responding to our communications," reported Communications Officer Diaz. "And they've activated weapon systems." Governor Chen's face remained calm, though her eyes showed concern. "Send the alert to Earth Defense Fleet, then activate our defensive protocols." Throughout the colony, hidden defensive systems powered up. These weren't obvious weapons but carefully disguised technological installations that looked like ordinary structures. The The colonists themselves calmly moved to designated shelter areas, following procedures they had practiced many times. "Ma'am," said Defense Coordinator Jackson, "Earth Defense Fleet reports that Admiral Sanchez's battle group is already en route. They anticipated this move and positioned their vessels 3 days ago. They'll arrive in approximately 15 minutes. "Governor," Chen nodded. "Perfect, now we wait." Aboard the lead Concord enforcement vessel, Commander Krex of the militant Chartel faction stood proudly on the bridge. After centuries of peaceful diplomatic missions, the chance to lead an actual enforcement action excited him. "The human colony is defenseless," he announced to his crew. "They have no warships and our scans detect minimal defensive capabilities. This will be a simple blockade operation. Once we control their orbital space, they will have no choice but to accept Concord authority." His second-in-command approached with a worried expression. "Commander, the humans are not responding to our warnings." "They will soon enough," replied Krex confidently. "Position our vessels to surround their orbital stations. Prepare boarding teams." The Concord fleet moved into position above New Horizon. Commander Krex was about to issue the final blockade orders when a sensor officer suddenly called out an alarm. "Commander, multiple vessels dropping out of FTL directly behind us." Before Krex could respond, 7 Earth Defense Fleet vessels appeared, surrounding the Concord fleet in a perfect formation. Unlike the bulky, ornate Concord ships, the human vessels were sleek and practical, with no wasted space or decorative elements. "How did they know we would be here?" gasped Krex. "And how did they arrive so quickly?" A communication request flashed on the main screen. Krex hesitated, then nodded to accept it. Admiral Isabel Sanchez of the Earth Defense Fleet appeared on screen. She was a middle-aged woman with steel-gray hair and calm eyes that seemed to look right through him. "Commander Krex," she said without preamble, "your fleet is now surrounded. Power down your weapons and we can discuss the situation peacefully." "This is an official Concord enforcement action," protested Krex. "The human colony is violating territorial regulations by establishing itself in this system without proper authorization." Admiral Sanchez remained completely calm. "We have reviewed all relevant regulations. New Horizon Colony has filed every required document and received all necessary permits. Your presence here is the only violation occurring." "Impossible," sputtered Krex. "The Vexthari assured us." "The bureaucrats don't always know what the lawyers have been doing," interrupted Sanchez with a slight smile. "Now I suggest you stand down your weapons. We have no desire for conflict." Commander Krex looked at his tactical display. The human ships had positioned themselves perfectly to neutralize his fleet's advantages. More disturbing was what his weapons officer had just reported. Their targeting systems couldn't get a lock on the human vessels. Something about the human ship's design confused the Concord's advanced systems. "You leave me no choice," he said finally. "We will stand down." As the confrontation at New Horizon ended peacefully, the news spread rapidly through the Concord. The mighty enforcement fleet had been outmaneuvered by humans who had anticipated their every move. In the Grand Assembly Hall on Concord Central, the political fallout was immediate and unprecedented. 7 species led by the philosophical Mwandari formally announced their separation from the Concord leadership. "We declare ourselves the Free Coalition," announced Elder Lisana of the Mwandari, her voice echoing through the hall. "For too long we have accepted restrictions on our development. We have signed human-drafted treaties that recognize our full sovereignty. 5 species remained loyal to the traditional Concord leadership, while the others declared neutrality, waiting to see what would happen next." Back on Earth, Admiral Sanchez addressed the United Earth Council in their meeting chamber in Geneva. Holographic displays showed the situation at New Horizon and the political developments at Concord Central. "Our measured response was successful," reported Sanchez. "We disabled their targeting systems without firing a single shot. Their ships still functioned perfectly, they simply couldn't attack us." "How did they react?" asked Council President Okafor. "They expected us to either submit meekly or respond with disproportionate violence," replied Sanchez. "Our measured response has thrown their entire strategic doctrine into confusion. They don't understand restraint that comes from confidence rather than fear." Meanwhile, in a secure laboratory deep beneath Sydney, Australia, Dr. Ibrahim Nasser made a disturbing discovery. His team had been examining data smuggled out by Free Coalition scientists. "Look at this," he said to his colleague, Dr. Maya Wong. "These genetic profiles from various Concord species show signs of deliberate manipulation over thousands of years." Dr. Wong studied the data with growing concern. "These aren't natural evolutionary patterns. It looks like someone has been selectively breeding these species for compliance." "Exactly," said Ibrahim. "And look at this historical record. Earth was intentionally quarantined thousands of years ago after being deemed genetically unsuitable for harmony by the founders of the Concord, the enigmatic progenitors. So we were considered too rebellious?" asked Maya. "Not rebellious," replied Ibrahim. "Independent, creative, unpredictable, everything the progenitors seemed to fear." He pointed to another data set. "And there's something else. I found evidence of a massive installation hidden at the Concord's core worlds, some kind of monitoring station still actively tracking and possibly influencing member species development. We need to report this immediately," said Maya, already reaching for the secure communication link to the Council. "Yes," agreed Ibrahim. "Because if I'm right, the confrontation at New Horizon was just the beginning. The progenitors have stayed hidden for millennia, but they won't remain in the shadows much longer." As they prepared their report, neither scientist noticed the small, crystalline object hidden in the corner of the lab, a monitoring device using technology far beyond anything humans or the known Concord species had developed. Deep in the device, a signal activated, traveling faster than light to a destination far beyond the known galaxy. The progenitors were indeed watching, and they were not pleased. The emergency meeting of the United Earth Council was interrupted when every electronic device in the room suddenly activated on its own. The screens showed the same image, a glowing, crystalline structure that pulsed with inner light. "What is happening?" asked Council President Okafor, rising from her seat. A voice filled the room, speaking in perfect human language but with an otherworldly resonance that seemed to echo inside their minds rather than their ears. "Humans of Earth, we are the progenitors. We created the Galactic Concord and have guided its development for 12,000 years. Your species represents a failed evolutionary branch that must now be eliminated for galactic stability." Similar messages were being broadcast across human colonies and ships throughout explored space. On Concord Central, the Free Coalition representatives received the same communication, as did the loyal Concord species. Dr. Eliza Chen, who happened to be in the council chamber to present her latest findings, whispered to Admiral Sanchez, "This is unprecedented. The progenitors have never revealed themselves directly before." The crystalline image pulsed brighter. "We have activated the compliance protocol. Resistance is futile. Accept your extinction with dignity." Throughout human space and in Free Coalition territories, a hidden program embedded in all standard Concord technology suddenly activated. Weapon systems went offline. Communication networks froze. Ships drifted powerless. Only basic life support remained functional. The voice of the progenitors continued. "Your species fails to understand the necessity of harmony. Your chaotic nature threatens the balance we have maintained for millennia. You will be remembered as a noble but failed experiment." In the council chamber, President Okafor looked to her military advisors. "What's our status?" Admiral Sanchez checked her personal device, which still functioned. "Human-developed technology is unaffected. Our quantum systems remain operational. The progenitors can't control what they don't understand." "Get me, Captain." "Maya Ortiz on the experimental vessel Prometheus," ordered Okafor. Captain Maya Ortiz and her crew aboard the Prometheus had observed the entire situation unfold. The Prometheus was humanity's most advanced ship, built entirely with human-developed technology and shielded against external interference. "Captain," reported her science officer, "we're detecting a massive progenitor armada emerging from hyperspace near Concord Central. Based on energy readings, they're not just ships. They appear to be living crystalline entities." Maya's face remained determined. "Send immediate alerts to all human vessels still operational, then establish contact with any Free Coalition ships in range." Within minutes, the Prometheus had connected with several Muandari and Turellian vessels, whose engineers had been experimenting with human technology. These ships remained partially functional. The progenitor control signals operate on a specific quantum frequency, explained Maya to the Allied commanders. Our FTL systems can generate a counter frequency. We need to distribute this modification to as many ships as possible. A Muandari engineer named Lethalia spoke up, her normally melodious voice tight with tension. If you share your quantum formulas, we can adapt them to our systems. Sending now, replied Maya. We don't have much time. Back on Earth, in Dr. Chen's laboratory, a breakthrough was taking place. Dr. Chen had been studying the connection between human consciousness and quantum physics when the progenitors revealed themselves. It all makes sense now, she said to her team as they worked frantically. Human consciousness resonates at frequencies that naturally interfere with progenitor thought structures. That's why they quarantined Earth. They feared our potential to break their control. How does that help us now? Asked her assistant. We can amplify those frequencies, explained Eliza, her fingers flying over her equipment. Create a broadcast that disrupts their communication networks the same way they're disrupting the Concords. She turned to Dr. Ibrahim Nasser, who had joined her team after his discovery about genetic manipulation. Ibrahim, we need volunteers with strong mental focus, meditators, mathematicians, artists, anyone who processes information in unique ways. I know just the people, he replied, already sending messages. In space, the situation grew desperate. The progenitor armada approached Concord Central, where billions of beings from various species lived. The crystalline vessels moved with perfect coordination, surrounding the massive space station. Captain Maya Ortiz's Prometheus led a small fleet of still functional ships in a desperate attempt to buy time. They darted between the much larger progenitor vessels, deploying the counter-frequency devices. It's working, reported Maya's tactical officer. Their control signal is weakening in the areas we've covered, but there are too many of them. We need more time, Maya replied, skillfully piloting the Prometheus through a dangerous maneuver between two progenitor ships. Earth needs more time to implement Dr. Chen's plan. On Earth, Dr. Chen had gathered 300 volunteers in a circular chamber filled with quantum amplification technology. Each person wore a neural interface designed to capture and boost their unique thought patterns. Everyone, focus your thoughts as we practiced, instructed Eliza. Don't try to think alike. That's our strength. Think in your own way about whatever matters most to you. The volunteers, a diverse group including scientists, artists, philosophers, and ordinary people from all walks of life, closed their eyes and concentrated. Broadcasting now, announced Ibrahim, activating the system. The combined thought patterns of 300 human minds, each processing information in their unique way, was captured, amplified, and transmitted directly into the progenitor communication network, a form of cognitive warfare never before attempted. In space, the effect was immediate and dramatic. The perfect formation of the progenitor armada faltered. Several crystalline vessels collided with each other. Others drifted aimlessly. Aboard the Prometheus, Maya received an urgent communication from Dr. Chen. The broadcast is working, but we need to strengthen it. Can you get closer to their command vessel? On it, replied Maya, directing her ship toward the largest progenitor entity at the center of the armada. As the Prometheus approached, a direct communication channel suddenly opened. A progenitor appeared on screen. Not a humanoid being, but a complex crystalline structure pulsing with light in patterns that somehow conveyed emotion. The voice that spoke seemed confused, almost pained. What is this? Interference? Your thoughts. They contradict. They overlap. They create new patterns we cannot predict. Maya stood tall on her bridge. That's humanity, and that's freedom. Every mind unique, every perspective valuable. Not chaos, but diversity, the true source of strength and growth. Impossible, replied the progenitor. Harmony requires uniformity. Stability requires control. No, countered Maya. Real harmony comes from different notes played together. Real stability comes from adaptation and growth, not control. Behind her, the counter-frequency devices reached maximum power, carrying human thought patterns throughout the progenitor network. On the screen, the crystalline entity seemed to pulse erratically. Error, contradiction, reassessment required. Suddenly, throughout the armada, the progenitor vessels began to power down. The control signals ceased. Communication systems throughout conquered space came back online. A new message broadcast across all channels, not the commanding voice of the progenitors, but a confused, almost humble tone. We must reconsider. We require time to process these new patterns. As the progenitor armada retreated, Captain Maya Ortiz allowed herself a small smile. Tell Earth we did it. The progenitors are withdrawing. The battle was over, at least for now, but Maya knew this was just the beginning of a new chapter in galactic history, one where humanity's chaotic creative minds would play a central role. 3 months after the progenitor retreat, representatives from 42 species gathered in a newly constructed meeting hall on neutral territory, a beautiful space station orbiting a yellow star at the borders of human, free coalition, and conquered space. The station, named Harmony Point, had been designed with input from all participating species, resulting in a unique blend of architectural styles. Captain Maya Ortiz, now promoted to admiral for her role in the progenitor confrontation, watched the gathered delegates with quiet pride. She stood beside Dr. Eliza Chen and Dr. Ibrahim Nasser, the scientists whose discoveries had proven crucial to humanity's success. I never imagined we'd be here so soon, said Maya. 3 months ago we were facing extinction. The fall of the progenitors changed everything, replied Eliza. When their control systems collapsed completely, their true history was revealed. The 3 humans looked at the central display, which showed data recovered from the progenitor network after their retreat. The truth had shocked the galaxy. The progenitors had not been the creators of the Concord but its hijackers. 12,000 years ago, they had conquered the original alliance and gradually modified member species to become perfect hosts for their influence. Representatives, please take your seats, called the moderator, a Mwandari elder named Lisana, who had been chosen for her wisdom and fairness. The signing ceremony will begin shortly. The delegates moved to their positions. The arrangement was circular, with no species given prominence over others, a deliberate contrast to the hierarchical, conquered assembly. Among them was Ambassador Tel Zor, now representing his people as free from progenitor influence. Admiral Helena Kim of Earth approached the center of the hall, carrying a data crystal containing the new Galactic Federation Constitution. After months of negotiation, the document had been finalized. A true partnership of equals based on cooperation rather than control. Fellow beings of the galaxy, began Admiral Kim, her voice clear and strong. Today we establish something unprecedented. A community of diverse species united not by force or manipulation, but by choice and mutual respect. She held up the crystal. This constitution contains no hidden codes, no embedded influence patterns, no secret hierarchies. It has been written in a neutral language developed by linguists from 12 species working together. Every clause has been examined by representatives from all our worlds. The hall was silent, the moment heavy with significance. What the progenitors never understood, continued Kim, was that our seeming weakness, our disagreements, our questioning nature, our refusal to accept things as they are, these are actually humanity's greatest strengths. We don't reject treaties because we reject cooperation. We reject flawed treaties because we believe true cooperation is possible. She placed the crystal in the center of the circular platform. One by one, representatives approached to add their verification codes, signifying their acceptance of the document. Ambassador Tilzor, waiting for his turn to sign, found himself standing next to Dr. Ibrahim Nasser. It's quite remarkable, said Tilzor quietly. When we first met humanity, I thought you were simply stubborn and chaotic. I never imagined you would transform the galaxy. Ibrahim smiled. We didn't do it alone. Once the progenitor influence was removed, every species began rediscovering their original cultures, their unique ways of thinking. That's true, agreed Tilzor. My people have been experiencing what we call the remembering, accessing aspects of our consciousness that were suppressed for generations. How does it feel? Asked Ibrahim. Frightening, exhilarating. Tilzor's purple skin shimmered with emotion. Like waking from a dream to find reality is more colorful and complex than we ever imagined. After the signing was complete, a celebration began. Species that had once been enemies now shared food, music, and stories. Cultural exchanges that would have been impossible under the Concord flourished naturally. Admiral Kim found herself in conversation with several representatives from the former conquered species. The renaissance happening on our worlds is remarkable, said a Tyrellian diplomat. With the progenitor restrictions removed, we've made more technological progress in 3 months than in the previous century. And it's not just technology, added a representative from the insect-like Xanthi. Art, philosophy, political systems, everything is evolving rapidly now that we think for ourselves. Kim nodded. That's what freedom does. It doesn't always lead to perfect harmony, but it creates the conditions for genuine growth. Across the room, Ambassador Tilzor was deep in conversation with Captain Maya Ortiz. The progenitors believed harmony required uniformity, he said thoughtfully. Humanity showed us that the richest harmonies arise from different notes played together, not in perfect unison, but in beautiful counterpoint. Maya smiled. That's a lovely way to put it. The celebration continued late into the night. Different species shared their music, creating impromptu collaborations that combined instruments and vocal styles never before heard together. Scientists exchanged ideas freely, without the restrictions that had limited research for millennia. As the event was winding down, a communications officer approached Admiral Kim with an urgent message. She read it quickly, her expression growing serious. She signaled to the other human leaders who gathered around her. What is it? Asked Dr. Chen. Our deep space monitoring network has detected signals from beyond the galaxy's edge, said Kim, quietly. They don't match any known pattern, not progenitor, not any Concord species. Another advanced civilization? Asked Maya. Possibly, replied Kim. Or something else entirely. Dr. Nasser looked around at the gathered species, all celebrating their new alliance. Whatever it is, at least we'll face it together this time, as equals. Admiral Kim nodded, watching the diverse beings of the galaxy, each unique, each valuable, creating their new community. I think that's exactly what will make the difference. The progenitors tried to create strength through uniformity and control. We've built something stronger through diversity and freedom. She looked back at the message in her hand, then out, at the stars visible through the station's crystal dome. New challenges awaited this newly united galactic community. But this time, they would face whatever came not as controllers and controlled, not as superiors and subordinates, but as genuine equals, each contributing their unique strengths to the whole. The future remained unwritten, but for the first time, in 12,000 years, it belonged to everyone. The end.